Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Well, welcome one and all. I am Katie Petrick, and I'm joined by David Fiorazo.
Hello.
He is here. He is looking very nice. His drip is on point, and he had some matters of the world.
You youngster.
Matters of the worldview to discuss this morning, David.
Yes,
what did
great,
you chit-chatty about?
Great show. Dr. Andy Woods. What was the topic? We talked about the America losing nationhood. If you think about our identity, our strength, think about our borders, our common language, and our culture, and how it just has been dismantled. We're losing our nationhood. Dr. Andy Woods today, worldviewmatters.tv. He's a pastor from Texas, one of my favorite guests. So you can subscribe at worldviewmatters.tv.
Oh, Texas. They don't know anything about borders down there, do they?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, and he's south Texas.
Yes.
So.
All right, well, we got some terminology out there in the world. We have a new concept. It's called deficit framing.
Uh-oh.
Right? It's making a name for itself on college campuses to justify incoming students being immature and unprepared to handle the expectations that are college, classes, courses, work, responsibility, things like that. No. Deficit framing. It's all about changing the language. David,
yes.
What do we got over here with this deficit framing?
I think we can wrap it up because you really said that the main words that students are coming in unprepared, they are underperforming, and most or many of them are immature.
No.
Yes. So, in other words, as according to the article over at the College Fix, there isn't a problem with students entering college grossly unprepared. The problem is college is too challenging. Those that say otherwise are colonizing subjugators.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep,
It's interesting. So it's an open secret among college professors and university admins that college students aren't what they used to be. So we could stop right there and pause and talk about that. College students aren't what they used to be. Well, we can ask why. And again, we point you back to the K through 12 and what the system is doing, what it has been designed to do. Test scores, grades, knowledge of basic English, math, world history, declining like crazy, historically declining. But that's not what the education system is built to do, as one of our friends and colleagues, Alex Newman, often talks about. It was built to put out these kinds of dumbed down students that don't know as much about their own country. In fact, what they do know, they don't like. So then they come out hating America, rebelling against their parents, of course, rejecting God and moral absolutes. And here we are. They go to college, and now they struggle with lengthy reading assignments, with basic vocabulary. Katie,
yes.
I know you're having a fit about this kind of thing, but
yes.
Deficit framing, as you said, they've got terminology for everything.
Yeah, so instead of looking in the mirror and saying, I'm the problem, it's me.
Taking responsibility.
As Tay-Tay would say.
Wait a minute, who's Tay-Tay?
Oh,
Tay-Tay.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
gosh.
Taylor
I thought
Swift.
I could get through a week without hearing that name.
This is about as much as I know about her and that, right? I'm the problem, it's me. Yeah.
Witchcraft.
One of her songs. Anyway, instead of looking in the mirror and saying, I'm the problem, it's me, and me taking responsibility, and me seeking out guidance, help to better myself, these college students, as we've seen, and the system itself, which the system is designed to do this, just as you indicated, they flip it and say, it's just too hard. I'm not the problem. It's the problem. College is the problem. It's too hard. So we have now this term called deficit framing that was created to basically give a way out for these college kids, like as an excuse. Like, oh, yes, deficit framing. Let's call it that. So it's a fluffy concept.
Fluffy.
It's sometimes referred to as deficit thinking or deficit model lens. And if anyone has been in college, they know you look at everything through different lenses. A feminist lens, an environmental lens,
social justice lens,
a Marxist lens. I actually had to do an entire
lens.
assignment in an English class looking through a Marxist lens. That's what they call it.
Okay, let's
called
look
it.
through our educated and worldview lens at 3 headlines here. And Katie, we can talk about these. College students stumble over words like circumstances.
I don't know what they mean.
Struggle with basic literacy,
Yes.
according to a professor. So no surprise right here. What about this one? Math professors. Incoming students can't even add fractions or subtract. Well, if you're doing everything on your
Well,
phone.
it's racist math. Leave it alone.
If you go to the store and, the cash register it tells you what to do. You don't have to think. Here, what about this one, Katie? College students cite deadlines, hard exams, and required attendance as impediments to success. Now, this is on a survey. This is according to college students themselves. These things that would produce intelligent, a knowledge of the world with wisdom, good working, hard work, the work ethic. And they're saying, no, this is it's not right. It's not fair. Requiring attendance.
Yes.
All these tests.
Well, rather than actually work through the challenges, we're just gonna make up some excuses instead. We're gonna have this deficit framing, and the term was coined by education researcher Chelsea Heinbach in a 2021 interview. Said that deficit thinking, it's the belief that there is a prescribed correct way of being, also known as the norm, and anyone who operates outside of the norm is operating at a deficit. And she wrote a whole book about it called Dismantling the Deficit Thinking in Academic Libraries. Theory, Reflection, and Action.
Oh, my goodness.
She says that these individuals are perceived by those engaged in deficit thinking as needing to be fixed or having to try harder and ultimately conform to the practices of the dominant culture. Yeah, the practices of the dominant culture are how we have been able to build ourselves up as a society. Do you want that to all go away? Because you're engaging in what will crumble our society, and we're seeing it right now before our very own eyes. So, yes, let's have expectations to the norm, and let's get rid of this whole, deficit framing to make ourselves feel better about how inept we are. Oh, wait, sorry, too big of a term. How bad we are.
Yeah, is this like a news flash that, as one of these professors says, students just don't know how to do college? They're not prepared.
Oh, yes. So
they're not prepared for the real world. They're prepared for all the DEI and everything. They get all that.
Here's the best part of that whole thing in this article. It was written by someone from Northern Illinois University, my alma mater. And it was at a college, the professor's senate, or however they call it, the faculty senate, I should say, at a faculty senate meeting. And I think it was philosophy professor said, hey, these Professor Alicia Finch said, she's convinced the intro students just don't know how to do college. Here's one thing to note. Northern Illinois is the closest Division I school near Chicago.
Okay. Uh-oh.
There's something to be said about that. As someone who was a grad student and who taught the undergrads, some of the kids coming from Chicagoland, like the area, the urban setting, their educational skills were subpar. Okay. So the professor says, hey, they don't know how to do college. And she was berated by a DEI, the vice president of DEI in front of the rest of the faculty there. Her name's Carol Sumner. And she talked about this whole deficit framing. She says, we just had a conversation yesterday at looking how we are student-centered and what we are doing for student success. And then she says, using an asset-based approach to student success requires more than the institution simply identifying that the students are having challenges, but it explores the ways to which structural and systemic issues impair and derail student success. It does not position the issues or challenges being due to deficits within the individual students. Blah, 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 blah.
That's what I hear. Blah, 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 blah.
And it went on, so I'm not going to remember. But she gave this long diatribe to this professor who basically was like, hey, I'm trying to, I'm noticing these things. And the professor had to then correct and be like, I know our kids are coming in ill-prepared. They're not knowing how to do college. How can we help them? And immediately the DEI lady comes in with her, they're not the problem. It is, blah, 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 blah. And as you heard, she just went on. It's it's tiresome.
Yeah, well, we've got to move
It's tiresome.
on. Still to come, students attending some of the world's most prestigious universities admit there are now topics too dangerous to discuss on college campuses. That's next.
Now, out of the very same quill from the last story is Daniel Nuccio, I'm not sure, from NIU, Northern Illinois again. And he wrote again for the College Fix about the world's smartest students. And how they basically believe that there are just some topics that are too dangerous to discuss. And this is coming from a dean who interviews all of these students. So Robin Kerner, we'll say, is the academic dean of John Locke Institute, who interviews 400 to 700 high school students from around the globe every year for their summer programs. And most of these programs are either in England or the U.S. Cool. I wish I would have known about it. I probably would have gone to it. It would have been amazing. But he's talking to not just like 10 kids. He's talking to up to 700 kids every year just to interview them to see about this program. He said that the students are generally between the ages of 13 and 19. They're self-selected for intelligence and intellectual curiosity. And they're hoping to ultimately attend Oxbridge or the Ivies. So Kerner said that a fundamental takeaway that I have from doing this is the telling of truth isn't prioritized anymore by these kids. Like just speaking the truth.
On God. See?
On God. You're
telling
smart.
the truth.
You know things. Now, having conducted nearly 2,000 interviews since taking on his deanship back in 2019. So he's been busy. He's talked to a lot of people, a lot of teens around the world.
Mr. Kerner.
Mr. Kerner said he's learned that many students feel there are just certain things that are very dangerous to talk about. In the English-speaking West, he noted, something's almost happening that's analogous to the kind of overt government control of information that he sometimes hears about from his Chinese students speaking to him. So when he speaks to kids who are like in China or over in Asian countries, he notices how they talk about the, government takeover, essentially. That same vibe, if you will, is happening, he's saying, in these Western countries. If that doesn't scare the bejesus out of you, I don't know what will. As I continue, he said the meaning of words are changed. Some ideas are promoted while access to others is restricted. People are forced to pay a price, it says, experientially and emotionally for getting out of the right lane.
Stay in your own lane.
Get in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
And he says, so now a lot of the kids are saying they're going to just refrain from discussing certain topics at all. Or it says, and this is what's dangerous, and this is the whole propaganda, they are consciously espousing opinions that they don't hold.
So they're programmed. They're not allowed to talk about what they really might believe, or their beliefs have to change in order to be allowed.
And if you're not showing the truth of who you are, if you're just saying all these things, go along to get along.
Yeah.
How long before that just becomes, oh, wait, when did I stop believing that it actually isn't that? I'm just saying it to get along. I don't actually believe that. I actually, believe this. It's going to get into, seep into their veins, and that's what will come out. So as part of the interview process for the John Locke Institute summer programs, Kerner said that he regularly asks kids targeting beliefs and opinions, exploring why they believe what they believe, and pressing them on the opinions that they hold, but they feel too scared to share in their regular classrooms. And he said that the ones that come up the most, like, what is it, you believe, but you just aren't talking about? He says it's the topic on which they cannot share their honest views with their peers while at school is gender ideology.
They can't share their views unless they support it.
Yeah, which, yes.
So they can't share
But a
their
lot
views
of these kids are not the ones who would support it because they're picked for their intellectual understanding here. And then telling the truth. He says in some interviews, he asked students directly about telling the truth. He says, I get them to think about the consequences, direct or indirect, of not telling the truth, whether by omission or going along with something they do not believe, such as elements of gender ideology that hold sex is self-determined or one should respect another's person's pronoun choices when they believe them to be inaccurate. And he said a lot of students are honest about their dishonesty. It's like
I like that.
because there's no consequence to them telling this guy,
They're
who's
honest.
this guy, right?
They're honest about their dishonesty.
Yeah, he said, which is interesting. He said a lot of students will say, I don't think this is right. It doesn't reflect my belief, but in the right situation, I'm going to go along with it anyway because it's not worth
The
consequences of challenging it. And this, my friends, is how an entire generation, an entire society is destroyed.
This is the environment.
These are the paper cuts.
Yeah, this is the environment at the levels of higher education, so-called, the university level. The consequences. They know it's a leftist center, and they only pretty much allow or support one ideology, one worldview, so you can't talk about anything Christian, conservative, anything like that. And then in this case, gender ideology is one of the big ones. Yep, sad.
It is. All right, well, students in Arizona may soon have the opportunity to appeal their grades if they feel that their professor is politically biased toward them. We're going to talk about it next.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on pristine quality bedding, towels, slippers, signature pillows, and much more when you use the code EDUCATED. That's EDUCATED. Educated. Support this show and a great American company.
All right. Well, since we are going to talk about bias, political bias.
We are?
We are. Because why wouldn't we? We're going to talk about it at least a little bit. We have a different kind of story from what we would usually go down because we have an Arizona Republican who proposed a bill that would create a process for students to appeal their grades in cases where they allege that political bias came from the professor. So Republican State Senator Anthony Kern sponsored Senate Bill 1477, and it proposed a grade challenge department. Ooh.
Look at that.
It would operate within the Arizona Board of Regents, which oversees then Arizona State University, the University of Arizona, and Northern Arizona University. Now, according to this bill, the grade challenge department, where do you work? Oh, I work in the grade challenge department.
Grade challenge.
Just
Oh my
sounds
goodness,
interesting.
there's such a department?
Well, they're creating one. He wants to create it. That's what he's proposing.
Wow.
It would have a location at each university, and it would hear challenges from students who received in any class or on any assignment if a student alleges a grade was awarded because of political bias. Now, when I read that...
You need a whole department for that, by the way? Come on.
Well, he's proposing an entire department for it, and it's not just, what my grade was in the course, but any assignment. This 5-point assignment... I feel where there was political bias against me. So now someone from said department is going to have to trek on over to that professor and be like, this student says that you had political bias.
Well, I would think
for this 5-point assignment. And now it's going to...
Well, the student would
this
probably have
is bureaucracy at its finest.
somehow
in my
prove-
opinion.
Yeah, I don't know.
It seems like a lot. Now, it says the grade challenge department, I just like calling it the grade challenge department, would be composed of volunteers
Oh, my goodness.
selected by the Arizona Board of Regents.
Volunteers, what could go wrong?
Who's going to volunteer for this job? Again, oh no, a 5-point assignment someone is complaining about. I must now go to said professor. Excuse me, said professor. Your political bias has shown through on this 5-point assignment. And yes. Now, whether it is overall a good idea,
Yeah, I mean...
you could argue it might be. Because there's a lot of political bias out there.
I don't know if we need an apartment. I mean, a department at every university, but this is a problem, political ideology and discrimination of certain viewpoints in college. Of course, we've been talking about this for a long time, but how to apply that, what are the practical things, so I don't know, but it's interesting. They say Arizona State passed the bill 16-12 and will be voted on in the House, and it faces a likely roadblock by Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs. So she doesn't like that.
Well, we want everyone to have a voice, except if it's a voice against ours. So
Right.
that's why.
Right. Of course,
That
she's
is
going
why. Yeah.
to veto.
That makes perfect sense. All right. Well, It's enough on Arizona because move over Maverick. The U.S. Air Force is set to spend $6 billion on a fleet of jets controlled by artificial intelligence. Maverick no more. It sounds like we've got a plot for the next Top Gun movie. Stay with us.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the Freedom Project Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
Okay, you ready for this? Here's the headline. The Air Force is going to spend $6 billion on 1,000 AI, artificial intelligence jets. And this is the U.S. Air Force. They're preparing to add these to their fleet as part of the contract. Did I say it was $6 billion? Yes, I did. That will be awarded to a private developer. And so there's going to be apparently some competition for this contract. The Collaborative Combat Aircraft, CCA project, will feature AI piloted planes. Now let that sink in. So no human pilots, artificial intelligence is going to fly these that will be able to fly missions too dangerous for human beings, for manned aircraft, such as flying just 30 feet above the ground at speeds up to 600 miles an hour. My goodness. The proposed jets will aid human piloted missions by escorting and protecting other planes, acting as scouts, carrying weapons to attack targets on the ground. Interesting. Weapons developers, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, General Atomics, and I think it's Anduril Industries. Anyway, they're going to be running to win this multi-billion-dollar. They're competing for it, this big contract from the Pentagon. So the DoD, Department of Defense, hopes to select 2 of these competing companies by this summer to begin building the jets so they can have them ready in 5 years. Interesting. It makes you wonder if we're going to have to go to war before 5 years, but that's for another program. In comparison, let's talk about this. Each jet has an estimated cost of $10 to $20 million per plane, but let's compare that to a manned F-35. That's $100 million new, while a B-21 bomber, $750 million.
Wow.
So war is good business for some. And just think about these contracts.
Wow.
What are they going to, it's interesting.
This whole thing to me is just like, the robots are coming for us. It's happening.
It's not just about the money. The money is eye-popping.
Yes.
But to have unmanned aircraft that are this expensive and costly and, flying that fast and with the potential to hit a target or to have bombs. Oh my goodness. We're entering a new territory. It really is sci-fi. It's the thing of the movies. It really is.
It is. And this is why sci-fi is so ahead of its time always. So watch all the sci-fi movies out there and in 30 years they'll all come true. Except the Jetsons.
I was just going to say
Except
that.
the Jetsons.
This is off topic. You can go back to the Jetsons where he'd go to the door and they'd pick up the screen. You could see someone on the TV screen standing outside, or you can talk to someone like we do a FaceTime or Google or Zoom. You can talk to people,
Skype, all that,
Skype, whatever. That was the Jetsons in the 60s, 70s.
Yep. But the Jetsons failed us on the, again, I talk about this multiple times.
What?
Getting ready in the morning and having the little
the conveyor belt.
And I didn't get it, and I still don't have it.
Yeah, we don't have
Come
that.
on.
That wouldn't have
We
been
got all
as-
the bad stuff and none of the good stuff. I tell you, well, we talk about, flying cars and all that. Well, we got these flying jets now, so it's
AI.
I don't know.
Keep an eye
Keep an
on
eye.
the AI stories, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Then if you are a fan of our show, if you could like, comment, share, subscribe, we'd be so thankful of you for doing that. And if you're a fan of the video platform Rumble, please follow us at rumble.com/Freedom Project. For David and myself, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting this show. Until next time, stay educated.